How you answer that question in the title will determine your potential for speed, fluidity, and even consistency on the drums. Maybe today your grip just doesn't feel comfortable. Maybe playing quickly and smoothly just doesn't feel natural to you right now, and your default result is a clumsy or choppy sound. Well, hey, there was a time in my playing when I struggled with any kind of fast right-hand timekeeping, like on the hi-hats or the ride, and I was also having difficulty getting high-quality professional sounds out of my snare, where my backbeats just didn't sound right and the snare was ringing obnoxiously and nothing really felt right. But strangely enough, I was able to fix both of these issues, the backbeat problems and the timekeeping problems, at the same time by doing what I'm teaching you today, which all has to do with where we're gripping. This is really interesting. Today you'll learn what this is all about as we answer the question of, can we grip each stick differently so that you're playing more consistently, fluidly, and professionally, no matter your level, even if you're a total beginner today. You can do this. Hey, welcome to the Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out today. I help self-taught beginner drummers know what to practice so that they can nail songs and sound awesome with a band. I want you to become the drummer other people want to jam with and want to have in their band. But hey, it all starts with knowing what to practice, and I want to help you do that, especially if you're a beginner. I have a totally free gift for you in the description. It's an e-guide called Know What to Practice for the Beginner Drummer. And what it does is it breaks down this simple 30-minute-a-day practice session into 3 parts. You practice these 3 parts every day for 30 minutes, and you can know that you're practicing the right things. You're practicing productively and growing. You can go beyond that and go practice whatever you want to from whatever YouTube videos you find, but as long as you've got that core practice routine, you can know that nothing is missing and you're gonna grow like crazy. Learn the 3 most simple and effective things to practice every day for maximum growth in minimum time. Those 3 things are the flow exercise, the 2-fold coordination growth method, and the learn songs by ear daily method. All 3 of these things are going to deliver massive results in your playing. They've helped out so many students of mine and fellow non-glamorous drummers. So go grab that. The guide's free, total no-brainer. Let's get on with today's lesson. So question for you before we get rolling. I just want you to think about this. Do your sticks feel like natural extensions of your arms? If not, something needs to change. And I'll explain more kind of why I'm asking this. But the goal, the dream on the drums, is for our grip to just feel like an additional joint in our arm. Another hinge point, just like an elbow or a wrist, so that the stick is literally an extension of our arm. And what's cool is that if we optimize our grip and we're paying attention to how we're gripping based on what we're doing, that's what should be happening. That's the goal here. And that's pretty much where we're going with today's lesson. If you adjust your grip according to what you're hitting and how you're hitting it, you'll not only feel more comfortable, but you'll also achieve more speed and even consistency in your playing. And that's kind of what I was hinting at back in the intro of the lesson, talking about the snare backbeats. You'll actually start hitting drums better, and you'll also be keeping faster, smoother timekeeping, which is kind of interesting because those were 2 things I was struggling with in my playing around the same time. I was having a hard time feeling quick and light and fluid playing. I was playing a lot of jazz in college and it didn't feel right. Meanwhile, I was working on my rim shot backbeats and I was trying to go. And I was struggling with the rim shots. They weren't really feeling right. And I was trying to get quicker over here, but the jazz wasn't feeling good. And so seriously, no joke, when I made the adjustment that I'm teaching you today, it solved both of these things simultaneously. And that's why this is so important. You'll be able to have smoother, faster timekeeping and more solid backbeats. So let's dive into this. But first, let's answer our question, the big question from the title. No, it's not wrong to grip each stick differently. But there are right versus wrong ways to do this. Now, we're talking about match grip. You know, obviously traditional grip is totally different, and drummers have been doing that for decades. We're talking about match grip. Is it okay to grip in different places, different ways with each hand? So what I would say, switching to the above camera here, I want you to look at my hands from the overhead camera. If I were gripping my sticks like this, and I'm gripping my right stick down here, my left stick up here, I would say that this is wrong. This is a wrong way to grip your sticks in different places. I'll explain why. Meanwhile, this, gripping closer to the butt end with the left stick, further up with the right stick, this, I'd say, is a right way. Now, there's not one right way. This is a right way. And we're going to talk about this more. It's going to make more sense as we get into this. That's why I say there are right and wrong ways to go about this. But ultimately, the answer to the question is no, it's not wrong to grip each stick differently. We just have to pay attention to how we're doing it. So kind of in a nutshell, there's sort of two parts. There's two parts to everything, it feels like. I always get into these lessons and I'm like, well, okay, there's kind of two parts to this. You got to pay attention to both parts, otherwise none of this works. So part one here, in a nutshell, I'll just give it to you straight. Grip farther up the stick for quieter speed and timekeeping. It's obvious, right? You may have noticed this, where if you grip your stick up here closer to the balancing point, so every stick has a balancing point. Depends on how worn the stick is, you know, how much sawdust is chipped off of it. But for this one right now, this is the balancing point. If you grip close to that, a little bit below it, not quite on it, you'll get the maximum speed and lightness that you could possibly get, which is great for playing ride. Especially if we use a lighter weight stick, like a little maple 5A. Which is cool. By the way, you heard different sounds there. A lighter weight stick sounds different on a ride than a heavier 5B. And so choose your sticks based on what sound you want. For playing quick, light jazz, lightweight stick gripping way up here. Fantastic. But here's the problem. If we take that same thing, we take that same grip, same stick, we come down here and we're trying to play rim shots on the snare. We can do it, but it kind of hurts. I actually end up feeling the shockwave going into my hand because I'm having to work harder to do it because I'm like throwing my arm into it. And it feels really unnatural versus when we're doing rim shots, when we're playing loudly on the drums, if we grip further down, we give ourselves more throw, more potential for power and volume, especially with a 5B stick compared to a little maple 5A, a 5B hickory instead. Suddenly, yeah, that feels good. Like we got all the depth in the bottom end and the crack. And I'm gripping where there's no visible button. Sometimes when I'm playing rim shots, if I'm going at it and playing really loud, sometimes this is where I'm at. You don't even see the button. And you'll notice this if you watch, I'll give you a couple of drummers to reference in a little bit for these different grips. If you watch drummers who are playing really loud, you'll see the same thing. So in a nutshell, grip closer to the button for the left stick because that's your backbeat stick. You want to be more firm with your backbeats, grip further up with your right hand stick so that you can keep more light fluid time. That's generally speaking. That's not always the case. It all depends on what song you're playing and what you're hitting. Because as drummers, we're playing an instrument that is a collection of instruments. We've got this instrument, this instrument, this instrument, that. All these different things we're hitting, so we're really having to optimize our grip based on what we're hitting. If I'm playing a tom groove, I'd rather grip down here near the button so I can throw the stick into it more and get more power on the toms. But if I move up here to the ride, then I would rather shimmy up to here. Likewise, if I'm playing the hi-hat, if I'm playing something like this, I want to grip further up. But what if I'm playing something louder, a little bit slower? For that, why not grip down here, especially if I'm coming down here and playing a lot of fills. There's not really a lot of time to shimmy back and forth, right? So I'm just gonna stay near the buttons if I'm playing really loud. So if you're really loud, grip closer to the buttons. If you're really soft, grip further up. If you're hitting a lot of rim shots down here, grip right here. If you're playing more lightly and quickly, grip up here. And that's it in a nutshell. But I told you there's a part two to this because if we stop there, we're kind of leaving out something important here. The secret to doing this well is constantly being aware of where you're gripping. Because if you're not aware of where you're gripping, none of it's any good, right? Because you have no clue where you're gripping. You suddenly notice, wait, why are my rim shots not sounding right? Oh, it's because I'm gripping up here. Oh, why am I struggling to play? It's because I'm gripping down here. Playing anything quick and fluidly on the ride is near impossible when you're gripping down here at the butt end. If you're playing something slow and big and you're going, fine, you can grip down here, but if you want to go, then you have to adjust those grips accordingly. But if you're not aware of where you're gripping and you don't know where you're at, you're flying blind and you're at the mercy of wherever you happen to be gripping as you're moving around the drum set. And that's what was happening to me back. I told you when I was in college, I was realizing, okay, why is it that some days my rim shots feel great? I feel like I'm getting all this power out of the drums, and other days I'm not. It was because I was gripping in different places completely unaware. And so awareness is the key. I want to give you 3 steps to practice this. 3 steps to becoming more aware of where you're gripping so that you can get really good at this. Number 1, step 1, sit here and just play a basic beat and decide, okay, where am I going to grip for this basic beat? Let's say we're playing nice firm back beats, whether or not they're rim shots. By the way, I've been saying rim shot over and over again. If you're a beginner, rim shot is where the shaft of the stick is hitting the rim at the same time the tip hits the head. You end up with more volume, crack, power. That's generally the snare sound we hear on our favorite rock records. That's what most rock drummers are doing. Unless you're playing really softly, that's probably what you're gonna do. So let's say we're playing rim shots. Okay, let's grip down here near the butt end. Let's say we're playing, you know, fairly lightly on the hi-hats, closed. Then let's grip up here. And as you're playing something real simple, real basic, I want you watching your hands and looking at where am I gripping? Is my grip changing? Because odds are, by default, what's going to happen is as you're playing, things shift, things happen. The sticks are moving around. You got all these forces at play. The sticks might both end up way out here, or they might end up here. Be mindful of how you're gripping. This is critical too when we're talking about fundamentals of grip. We've got other lessons about that on the channel. If you're working on finding your fulcrum point and deciding like how much am I going to wrap my fingers around, all of those intricacies, the nuance of how you grip, it's so important. But you have to be mindful of it because otherwise it all goes out the window as soon as you're playing a song or you're playing on the full kit. It's easy to pay attention to grip on the pad, but when you play the full drum set, it's easy to not pay attention to it because there's so much going on. Not to mention when you're on the full drum set, you're hitting different things and now we got to potentially grip differently based on what we're hitting. It all kind of starts to become overwhelming until you just start simple money beat, pay attention to where you're gripping. And that's literally the step 2 there. Pay attention to how you're gripping. Film yourself. Set up your phone like right over here. Film yourself so that after like 2 minutes of playing the money beat, you see that, oh, it accidentally shimmied up. Okay, let me do it again. Let me be aware of that. I'm gonna watch that hand. Okay, I'm gonna watch my left hand. You know what to watch for. Suddenly, you're becoming intentional, purposeful, and mindful. And like I said, that's the secret to doing this well. And so then that leads you to step number 3 here, which is practice making adjustments on the fly. As you get more comfortable with this, you can then say, okay, I'm going to make adjustments on the fly. I'm going to grip up here for the hi-hat, but then I'm going to come down and play a snare fill. When I come down and play the snare fill, I'm going to shimmy to the butt end so that I can hit the rim shot. Basically, like here's what that might look like. So hopefully you could see there how when I would come down to the snare, I would just let the stick slide out. And then when I came back up here, I would move up, especially when I started adding the molar 16ths. Molar 16ths are tough if you're gripping way down here on the butt end. You can do it, it feels more clumsy. But if you're down here, it'll feel a lot more light. Just a lot more effortless. And so we want to optimize our grip. So really what this is coming down to is be mindful of how you're gripping based on what you're hitting and be consistent with how you're gripping based on what you're hitting. What I mean by that is, okay, we're gonna have our snare rim shot grip. Anytime we're coming to rim shots, big rim shots on the snare, you're thinking like full on rock drummer, going at it, crazy loud. You gotta be gripping down here. But what if we're playing something more lightly, something more jazz-like? kind of feels funny playing jazz with this tuning. I have everything tuned nice and low for kind of a big boomy sound, which is really fun. If I were playing jazz, I'd tune everything up a whole bunch. But you get the idea. When you're playing more light and quickly, suddenly it makes a lot of sense to also rotate to a little more thumbs up, choke up further on the stick so that naturally you've optimized your grip so that playing quickly and lightly is easier. Versus when we're getting loud, okay, we want to be down here for maximum throw, maximum power. So that we can reach the things we want to reach if we're moving around, get more power, more thunder out of our playing, versus choking up and expecting that we're going to be able to reach everything. That's another big reason to grip further down. When you're moving around the drums, you get a lot more reach. And so that's critical, that's important. So if you're playing louder, adjust both sticks closer to the butt end. If you're playing softer, adjust both sticks further up here, but be consistent in saying, okay, when I do my quick timekeeping, this is the grip I go to. That way it always feels good. When I do rim shots, this is the grip I go to, so it always feels good. I told you a couple drummers to reference. So Chad Smith, we all know Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, amazing drummer. And if you watch him just playing heavy and going at it, you'll see that he's gripping down here close to the butt ends, and that's the grip that works for that kind of playing. And you'll see any rock drummer doing that. On the flip side, Carter McLean. I know these examples are kind of random. Carter McLean is mostly a jazz drummer. He can play a lot of different styles. I think he played on Broadway for a long time doing Lion King. But I think jazz is really like his home base, his sweet spot, and he does it so well. And you can watch him playing, and he's like up here on the sticks and playing with like a French grip as I try to fake my way through it. Something kind of like where it's like this kind of grip up here, and a lot of finger work. It allows for more fingers, and so you're gripping according to what you're playing. Versus if you go to rock, okay, move back down to here. And so be mindful of that. That's all what it comes down to, being mindful and paying attention to how you are gripping. So when you start doing this, especially if you follow those action steps of getting to where, okay, you're filming yourself, you're seeing what's happening so you can make the changes, and then you're learning to make those adjustments on the fly, you're going to be feeling way more comfortable with how you're gripping, because you're going to know that you're gripping best for what you're hitting right now. If you need to hit heavy rim shots, you're going to know that, okay, these rim shots are going to be the best they can be because I'm gripping for those rim shots. Or if you're playing something more chill and more quick, you're going to know, okay, this is as easy as it can possibly be because I'm gripping further up. I'm hitting the hats at this angle. I'm using the neck of the stick on the edge, so on and so forth. You'll get a better, more consistent sound out of your drums. Is if you always come to the snare with this grip and this mindset, it's always going to sound consistent. That's critical to a professional, consistent snare sound. If you're playing a groove and it sounds like this, where you're hitting a million different ways because your stick's all over the map, that sounds so sloppy. Versus if you go, where we're hitting the same way each time, it sounds super consistent, professional, polished, and that's what you're going to hear on any rock record. You're going to hear that consistent snare sound that's about like that, where it's like machine gun, because those rim shots are consistent and even because you're gripping down here. You'll be able to play more fluidly and quickly on your cymbals too, which is so cool. And so you can know that, okay, when we go to cymbals, we'll switch to more of this kind of grip, a little further up the sticks, so we can float along nice and lightly. So question for you as you go, have you found, I don't know why you clicked on this video, maybe it was because you found that you don't grip consistently and you've wondered, is that okay? Is that against the rules? And then you saw this thumbnail and you thought, okay, I'll at least see what this guy has to say about it. Maybe that's why you're here. So question for you, have you been gripping your sticks differently? Are you going to change anything after today, if I change your mind on anything? Or have I just confirmed for you that, hey, you're on the right track? The fact that you've been gripping like this is totally fine because it's helping you. It's a good thing. Maybe I've been able to encourage you in that way. But tell me in the comments, do you like to grip your sticks in different spots? And hey, before you go, be sure to grab that Know What to Practice for Beginner Drummers 3-part 30-minute daily practice routine to literally hack your growth and just help you grow that much faster by zeroing in on the critical things that really move the needle and give you results in your playing. It's helped so many students of mine, it'll help you too. Be sure to grab that, my free gift to you. I hope this lesson's been helpful and valuable to you. As always, stay non-glamorous and know that no matter what, you can do this.